Going everybody, this is Video Boy and welcome to part 2A of the LibGDX 2D platformer mini-series. So this is the B part of part 2. So in this episode we're going to be doing the more Terraria style maps. So you guys will be able to load them up from files and also save them back to the files. And you'll also be able to edit the maps while you're in game, and it'll show up in game as well, which is really cool. So we're going to be making our own custom map renderer with this. Okay, so let's get started with it. So the first thing we need to do, let's just create a new package because we're going to need a couple of new classes just related to the custom map. So we'll call it custom game map. Okay, and we're going to need two new classes here. So we're going to need a custom game map data. This is just a simple class that will have some very basic data here about our game maps. Make sure all the variables are public. So the whole point of this class is for the LibGDX JSON tool. It will be basically taking objects of this class and saving them to the files and loading them from the files. So I'll show you guys how that works, but everything needs to be public. And each one of these is a different property that will get saved to the JSON file. It's really nice the way that it gets saved. You guys will see in a minute. Okay, and we need one more class here. Oh, we're going to need other ones soon, but one more class for now. And we're going to call that one custom game map loader. So this is going to be a couple of static methods here. One to load and one to save, and we're also going to have one to generate a very basic map. I won't be using any Perlin noise or anything. It's just going to be pizza layers with a bit of random. I won't walk you guys through that, so I'll just copy it in. If you guys want to read this code, you can, but I will be doing a more in-depth tutorial on how to actually generate maps. This is just a very basic way of doing it. Just for now, just so we have something temporary. So if you guys want to check it out, of course you can read through the code, but you don't have to. Okay, so this will generate a map. Now what we need to do, we need to create two more methods to load a map. So it's going to return a custom game map. We'll call it load map, and it'll have a string ID and a string name that gets passed to it. It will return a custom game map data, which is the object we just created. Okay, and then a couple of things in here. So the first thing is that we're going to be loading the map from the folder wherever the game is being run from. So if you export the project into a .jar, I've done a tutorial on that. If you export into a .jar and you run the .jar, we want our program to create a maps folder right beside the jar file with all our maps inside of it. You can use other directories, but we're just going to do it this way for now. So we need to create the maps folder. So what you need to do for that is gdx.files.local. So this will get you the relative path to the jar file. And then we need to do maps. And then we need to get the java.io.file, so .file, and then .mkdirs. What that's going to do, that's going to make the directories. So it's going to make the map directory. Okay, and then now we need to actually get the map file, so we're going to create a file handle here. And basically the same thing, except this time in our path we can actually put the maps folder because it exists now, and then we'll append the ID like this, .map. So just say they are trying to load a map called with the ID of basic. It's going to look in the maps folder for a map called basic.map. Well, it's going to look for a file called basic.map. And then we need to do a couple of things based on that. So the first thing is we need to check if the file exists. We need to handle it, because if it doesn't exist, we want to create a new map based on it, right? a brand new map. Okay, so if it does exist, what we need to do is we need to get the data from the file and then turn it into a custom game map data object that we can send to the map loader later on so it can actually load the map. So let's create this. Let's call it data is equal to JSON dot from JSON. Now this is going to be a little weird. I'll explain it in a second. So custom game map data dot class, and then in here we need to actually pass the JSON string, so we can do file dot read string. Okay, so everything that happens behind the scenes here is pretty complicated actually, but basically what we're doing is we're using the LibGDX JSON tool to load up the data from the map file. So we're giving it the map file data, and it's going to be using that map file data to create a custom game map data object. Now we have to pass the class here so it knows what kind of object we want to convert this string value to. So this is very powerful to be able to convert string data to and from objects, which is super cool. Okay, and then we're just going to return the data. And then now here, if the file doesn't exist, we're going to return, and then we're going to call our method here, generate random game map. Actually, let's do it this way. Custom game map data is equal to this. And then we're going to add our save method here. So let's just do data. Let's implement the save, and then if the file doesn't exist, we're going to generate the new map and we're going to save it right away. So let's add our save function here. It's actually very easy. It's even easier than the load. So void save map. Okay, so it's going to take some data. Whoops, I forgot to specify the variable name here. Okay, so it's going to create a custom game map data. And then we need to fill it with the values that we got. So data dot ID is equal to ID, and data dot name is equal to name, and then data dot map is equal to map. So we're creating this object here, and then we can basically just copy this here. So we're going to, again, if the maps folder doesn't exist, we're going to create it in the save. Just in case we end up calling save before load for some reason, if that's what you guys want to do. And then we need to copy this as well, because we need to get the map at the ID. So we want to get the file. Even if this file doesn't exist, we still need to get the file at the location. So this is the ID of the map, so we're going to get the map at that ID. And then now we're going to do file.write. And you want to do write string here. Okay, so for the string, what we need to do is we need to do JSON dot pretty print, and then we need to pass it the data, and then we set append to false. So I'll explain this just quick. So basically what's happening now is we're passing JSON the data object. So this time, instead of passing the string and the class, we're passing the object, and what it's going to return to us is a string. Now the reason I did pretty print is so that it prints out nicely, so when we open the file we can see it looks all good and looks nice, and we can actually edit it from the file. And this thing here, append, we set to false. If it's true, instead of overwriting the current map that's there, it's just going to add this string onto what already exists. So we don't want that. We want to replace the map once it gets saved. There's no point in doing an append here. Okay, and then now here we can just run save map, and we can just do data.id, data.name, and data.map. Okay, so now let's actually load up this map here. So let's go here into world. I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it custom game map, and it's going to extend the game map. Okay, so this looks familiar if you saw yesterday's episode on the tiled, but it is different. So we're going to go through this one step at a time. We're going to do the render. Actually, I think we might have to end up doing a couple of the other ones first. Okay, so just quickly, let's just implement. Actually, I think we need to override something here. We need to override the get tile by ID. Okay, so let's write this here, and then we'll focus on that afterwards. So basically, we need to get the tile by coordinate. So I explained it in the first part, but basically this is getting the tile type based on the location in the coordinate of the tiles. So this is not pixel location, this is the tile location. So we need to check a couple of things first. So if x is less than 0, or x is more than or equal to get width, or y is less than 0, or y is more than or equal to get height. In this case, whoops. Okay, we're gonna have to rename these things. X is column. I didn't realize that we're using different variable names here. Row, return null. So basically, if the column or row we're trying to get is out of bounds, return null, because there's no tile there, it doesn't exist. Otherwise, we're going to return tile type get tile by ID. Okay, and then we need to create a constructor here. I forgot about that. Okay, so we're going to need a couple of values. We're going to need a string ID, string name, and a string map. No, not string, sorry. Int map. Okay, and let's build a constructor. Okay, so basically we want to construct a new map. So let's do that. So with our methods that we just created, it's very easy. So we get a custom game map data object, and then we just do custom game map loader dot load map. Then we can give it an ID. So we'll just call it basic. And there you go, that's a basic name. We have to import this. Okay, and then we just do all the this dot whatever is equal to whatever. So this dot ID is equal to ID, this dot name is equal to name, this dot, whoops. We need to do data dot okay. We also need a sprite batch here, and we also need to load the tile images themselves. Okay, so I'll explain to you guys what's going on with the texture region and why we're using a 2D array. So let's initialize the batch first. Okay, now for the tiles, it's a bit weird. The tiles are all in one image, right? If we look at it. This image is on GitHub, by the way. Links in the description. They're all in one image, so what we need to do is we need to split the image up so we can get each tile. So LibGDX has this really nice thing here. So if we do texture region.split, and we pass it a texture, so we're going to create a new texture. We're going to call it tiles.png. And if we give it a width and height, so if we tile type tile size, and do the same here. Import this. What LibGDX is going to do is it's going to split this image for us into a 2D array, because right now we only have one row, but you could have multiple rows. So it's going to split into a 2D array, and now we'll be able to access the tiles using this array, which is very cool. Okay, so we have this done now. Okay, so now we need to do this. We have access to the map, so we can get the tile now at that location. So what we need to do is tile type dot get tile type by ID, and then we need to get the ID of the tile. So map. The first value will be layer, the first index, because it's for layers. The second one, it's going to be a bit weird here. I'll just write it out and I'll explain after. And then the second one, sorry, since we call them in a row, I keep writing it as that. So basically, we're reading it upside down here, so we're getting the inverse of it. So if you get we're getting the height here, and we're subtracting by the row that we're trying to access -1. So that's going to make sure that we're getting the opposite, because the way we're loading the files right now, they actually get loaded upside down. So if we don't do this, we're going to get some weird stuff. But it's good that we do this. It makes more sense this way. So it's basically we're just loading them in descending order rather than ascending order. You guys can play around with that afterwards and see how it works. But okay, this we need to rewrite. This get tile type by coordinate. We pass the layer, and here we do int. Yeah, it is x here, divided by tile type okay, and then there's some weird stuff here. We're going to need to do pretty much the exact same thing as before, so we're inverting the y. So we need to do get height minus, then -1, like that. Okay, there you go. So we're inverting here, and then we're going to end up inverting again. That's just how it works. It's annoying, but that's just how it works. Okay, now let's implement the get width, get height, and get layers. So get layers is the easiest one, so map.getLength. So when we do map.getLength, we're getting the length of the first index here, which is the layers. And then now if we want to get the height, what we need to do is map.getLength, like this. So this way we're going to be getting the length of the rows, which is the second one. And then for width, it gets even more weird. Do 0, 0 like this, .getLength, and that'll give us the length. So if we want to get the length of the last element of the 3D array, the last dimension, we need to go through the other dimensions to get it. So it's a bit weird, but it's okay. And good practice, we need to dispose the batch here. Just do that. Okay, now we're on to the rendering. So let's actually render this thing. So we have the camera here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the projection matrix of the batch. I showed you guys how to do that in the last tutorial series. So we do camera.combined. Okay, then we'll begin the batch and end it, and then within here we're going to be doing all our stuff. So we need to do a triple embedded for loop here. So this is going to get a little crazy, but bear with me here. So we're going to be looping through the layers. So we need to okay, and then within here we're going to be looping through each row. And then we're going to be looping through each column here. Yeah. Trying to be a little lazy there and try to do a sneaky thing, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, there you go. Alright, and then now we need to get the tile type at that location so we can render it. So tile type is equal to this dot. Okay, so now we have that implemented, so we can get the tile at the location here. Whoops. Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a tile at that location, so we need to check if it's a null. So if it's not equal to null, we can draw it. So batch dot draw, and we're going to need the texture region one here. This one's good enough. So we need to get the texture. So we have the tiles texture region, and the row is going to be 0 because we only have one row of tiles. And then the ID that we need to get, the index of the tile, is type dot get ID -1. And I'll explain that in a no, I'll explain it now. So basically our tiles array here starts at 0 because that's how arrays work. They start at 0 and then they go up to their length -1. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay. But our tile IDs here, if you remember, they start at 1. So in order that our indexes match up, we need to subtract by 1. So our grass index in the tiles is actually 0. So we need to subtract by 1 for each one of them. So the dirt would be 1, and the sky is 2. So that's the reasoning behind that. And then now to actually render it, we need to render it using the column and then the row. Okay, so that makes sense. So the column is just the location within the tiles array that the tile is at, but to get its pixel location we need to multiply by its size. So that'll give us the actual pixel location to draw it at. Alright, this looks good. I don't see any errors or anything, so maybe we should try running it. The only thing we need to do is we need to change this here to custom game map. Be sure to import it, and it should update for us. And there you go. This is our custom map that was just generated. And if you want to see the actual map file, you have to refresh. So you go in your desktop project here, you press F5. You see you have a maps folder. You go here, and then there's basic.map, and we can open this up with the text editor. There you go. Here's our map. We have all our sky here and our clouds and everything. Alright guys, so that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel and you found this helpful, please subscribe, and you'll be able to continue following these kind of series that we have going on right now. And also, if you would recommend the channel to a friend, that would be awesome. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.